Hi, Core 180. I hope you are going to have a great Memorial Day weekend. I don't know if they celebrate Memorial Day in Canada, Courtney. Do they? I'm not exactly even sure what we're celebrating in regards to Memorial Day versus Veterans Day. I'm sitting outside my house today because my baby's in the house screaming, if you can hear that. And this is my daughter, Sabrina. Say hi, Sabrina.
Hi.
She is going to be 5 years old this week, so we are going to go celebrate her birthday tomorrow with her grandparents in Sanborn, Iowa. I just want to go over a couple of things that you need to work on this week. I have not yet pulled your assignments and looked at them for week 1, so I will need to do that yet. I probably won't get to that till late Monday night before I look at that. And they're not most of it's not due till late Monday night anyway. And then I will put grades and courses at Dort. You may have to give me a couple days for that, depending on how that goes. Sometimes it can be a little bit hinky, and I may have to talk to Sandy Wrightsma to get that straightened out. But ideally, by the end of this coming week, okay, sorry about that. By the end of this coming week, we should be able to have your grades, and then you can see where you're going. Basically, those shouldn't be a problem. If you're completing the work, you're putting an effort in, you shouldn't be worried about that. So this week, we're starting short stories. A couple things you need to know. This week we're going to be reading 4 short stories. The 4 that I picked for this week are all considered very classic, important short stories. You actually may have come across one or more of them at some point in your earlier reading career. Most of them were written before 1950. So it kind of gives you an overview. There's 2 by men, 2 by women. So it's a nice kind of broad range of stories. The first one you'll read is A&P, which is by John Updike, who just died not even that long ago. So that one's pretty contemporary, pretty easy to read, and shouldn't be a problem for you to get through. There's a movie trailer that you can view along with it, which I like because it just gives you a picture of what we're dealing with. And sometimes music and video can really enhance our perception of a story. The second one you're going to be reading is Story of an Hour by Kate Chopin, which is very short. And in fact, you probably, if you haven't encountered any of them, this is the one. And it's a story that takes place over the course of an hour. You shouldn't have too much trouble getting through that one as well. Then you'll be reading A Good Man is Hard to Find by Flannery O'Connor. Flannery O'Connor is a Southern writer, or was a Southern writer. She is known for dealing a lot with faith, a lot with morals and ethics. Sometimes her stories can be disturbing or difficult to understand and read. This one is probably her most famous, so it's a good one to know, a good one to be familiar with in thinking about literature. It's easy to read. It's not a tough read, but go ahead and read through that one. And then your last story is the oldest story, and it's the most difficult and it's the most longest. That's why I put it last. You can do the stories in whatever order you want. It doesn't matter. The last one's called Young Goodman Brown by Nathaniel Hawthorne. So think really old-timey. He has been dead for a very, very long time. He wrote The Scarlet Letter, so you kind of get the sense of his time period. So number one, the language is going to be outdated. Feel free to Google words you don't know. That's what I do when I'm reading and I come across an unfamiliar word or a phrase. Google it. Try to find it out. If you print out the story, you can just write it right on the story. That might be a helpful thing to do. The second thing to know about Young Goodman Brown is that it's an allegory, meaning everything stands for something else. So if you are experienced with Pilgrim's Progress, that's probably a good frame of reference to have in the back of your mind as you're reading Young Goodman Brown. Go through that one. That one's going to take you a while. Feel free to come at it a couple times, read through it slowly, give yourself time to process it because it is written in an unfamiliar voice and probably dealing with some unfamiliar concepts. With all the stories, I've added an audio link that you could listen to the stories as you follow along on the text. That's completely optional. Some people love that, other people don't. But feel free to use those audio links as you see fit or as is helpful. A couple of the stories I have links to background information that might be helpful. I encourage you to read through that. That gives you a much better sense of where the author is coming from, who they are, and what perspective they're bringing to the story, and may help you form some interpretations of it. There's also 2 short things that you do at the beginning of the week. You need to read through a quick document about how to read a short story. That's mostly review from what we talked about last week. And then you also need to watch a great video. It is awesome. It's a wrap with the elements of short story. Once again, not new information. It's going to be talking about the aspects of short stories, setting, plot, theme, character, those kinds of things. Once again, not earth-shattering, new information, but good to have in the back of your mind as we start thinking about what is fiction, what terminology do we use. Every field has its terminology, and those are some of ours that we use in literature. So you'll do that. You'll do a discussion board post, and then the other major thing that you're going to do this week is you're going to find an article about one of the short stories. I recommend not picking the long Young Goodman Brown one. I would stick with one of the other three. That's my personal opinion. I think it'll be easier if you want an easier one. Pick your favorite one, though, and follow the directions to find an article about it in the Dordt Library online. If you run stuck, you can't seem to access the article and you feel like you should, let the reference librarians know. Jennifer Bream is the one that you would contact. Let me know, too, and I can get a hold of her if there's a problem. But you'll find an article about one of the short stories. It's not going to be written in your language. It's going to feel dry. It's going to feel boring. These are people who are scholars writing about literature. That's probably not you. It's probably not me. So get through that, plow through it. It's not going to be great reading. But it is important to see how other people analyze and look at literature. And that's what you're going to be doing. So you're going to find one article about one of the short stories that we read and read the article and then write me a little summary. I'm thinking 2 to 3 paragraphs, no more than a page, double-spaced. Just summarizing what does the author of the article have to say about the piece. So you'll write that and upload that. That's the other big assignment. And there's a couple of other things to have you look at. Your first paper, it's not due until late in June, I think June 19-ish. I could be wrong. June 16. But there's directions to get you started thinking about that this week. And a personal response, which is not due until June 9, but to start thinking about those things. Those are listed on the learning guide this week. As always, if you have any questions, I know one of you is contacting me by text this week. That worked out beautifully. I try to check my email multiple times a day. If for some reason your email is not working, I had a few times last week where I had some trouble. Shoot me a text, shoot me another email to my other email account. I try to check both of them multiple times a day. Or post to our water cooler discussion at the top of our page at Courses at Dordt. That's a great place to ask a question. So please let me know if there's anything you're struggling with, anything you're not sure about. Use the learning guide to pace yourself this week and figure out when you want to get things done. It's totally up to you in the order you do it in. So I hope you have a good week. And once again, let me know if you have any questions.